All right, so today we're going to be diving into the world of DoorDash,
Oh, yeah.
but not as a hungry customer this time.
Okay.
We're looking at it from the perspective of someone who wants to be a Dasher.
Gotcha.
And to help us with that, we've got 1,000 ways to hustle DoorDash,
Interesting.
which is a super detailed guide on how to be a successful DoorDash driver.
Nice.
So whether you're thinking about hitting the road as a Dasher or just curious about how this whole thing works, stick with us because we're going deep.
It's crazy how detailed this guide is about what it takes to be a good dasher.
Yeah.
Like, it even gets into the mindset you need to have
Really?
to be successful.
I don't know. I can see that.
So it's not just about driving around.
Yeah.
It's a whole strategy.
Right. You've got to, game the system.
Yeah, exactly. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Okay, so first things first. What do you absolutely need to become a Dasher?
Oh, obviously, you need to be at least 18.
Okay.
Have a valid driver's license, insurance,
Yeah.
and, a smartphone with data.
Right. Makes sense.
But they also do a background check.
Oh, really?
Yeah, using a company called Checker. So they look at your driving record, criminal history, all that stuff.
Okay, yes, safety first.
Exactly.
So what about the car?
Oh, that's interesting.
Do you need to have a super nice car?
Not really.
Okay.
They're mainly concerned about it being reliable and clean.
That's good.
Like, you don't need some fancy car.
Right.
Just got to keep it maintained and presentable,
Okay, makes sense.
because you're representing DoorDash.
Yeah, it's like you're an ambassador or something.
Exactly.
So once you're all signed up and approved, what happens?
Well, you get this cool activation kit,
Oh, really?
which includes the DoorDash red card and a hot bag.
Oh, I've always wondered about that red card.
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
It's like a prepaid card they give you
Okay.
that you use for certain orders. We'll talk about it more later, but it's pretty important.
All right, so let's say you're all set up, you got your kit, you're ready to go.
Yep.
Do you just accept every order that pops up?
No, that's actually a big mistake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the guide says you have to be strategic about the orders you take.
Okay.
Like, just taking any order could actually hurt your earnings in the long run.
That's so interesting. So how do you know which orders to take?
Okay, imagine this.
Mm-hmm.
You get 2 pings at the same time.
Okay.
One's a $5 order, but it's 10 miles away,
Mm-hmm.
and it's to a huge apartment complex.
Okay.
And the other's a $10 order, only 2 miles away, and it's to a house.
I'd probably go for the $10 one. It's closer and pays more.
Exactly.
I get it.
So distance is important,
Yeah, big time.
but it's not just about the total miles.
No, it's about the time it takes too, right?
Right.
Just think about all that time you might spend trying to find the right apartment in a big complex.
Yeah, that could take forever.
Exactly. And that's time you could be using for another delivery.
So what else should you think about when you're deciding whether to accept an order?
Well, the type of restaurant matters a lot. In what way?
Like, fast food places are usually pretty quick,
Yeah.
but sit-down restaurants can take a while,
Right, especially if it's busy.
especially during rush hour.
Yeah, you could be stuck waiting there forever.
And then there are those restaurants that make you order when you arrive.
Oh, yeah, those are the worst. I always feel bad for the drivers with those.
Yeah, those can really eat into your time. You're basically working for free while you wait.
Right.
So unless the payout is really good, you probably want to avoid those.
Okay, so you've got to think about the restaurant, the distance,
Yep.
anything else.
The delivery location can be a big factor, too.
Right, like if it's hard to find parking or something.
Yeah, houses are usually pretty straightforward,
Yeah,
but apartments, oh man, those could be a nightmare.
especially those big complexes with confusing layouts.
Exactly.
And what about gated communities?
Oh, yeah. Those can be tricky.
Like if you have to wait for the gate to open or something?
And then there's parking. You don't want to get a ticket that would wipe out your earnings.
Yeah, that's the last thing you need.
So factor all that in when you see an apartment delivery pop up.
Now, I've heard a lot of conflicting stuff about acceptance rates.
Oh, yeah.
Does it really matter, or is that just a myth?
It's a big debate in the Dasher community, that's for sure.
So what's the truth?
Well, DoorDash says it doesn't directly affect the orders you get.
Okay.
But a lot of experienced Dashers say that keeping your acceptance rate above 50%
Yeah.
can get you better offers, especially when it's slow.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a hidden bonus or something.
That's interesting.
So it's a balancing act, right? You don't want to take every crappy order,
Yeah.
but you also don't want to be too picky.
So let's say you've looked at all the details and decided to accept an order.
Yep.
What happens next?
And you got to master the pickup, which is more than just grabbing food.
What do you mean?
Well, you basically have to become a restaurant expert.
Oh, come on. Does that mean I have to be a foodie to be a good dasher?
Not necessarily, but you do need to know your way around the restaurants in your area.
Like what kind of food they serve?
Well, yeah, that helps, but it's more about knowing the layout,
Oh, okay.
the typical wait times,
Right.
and even building a good relationship with the staff.
Oh, wow. So it's like networking, but for food delivery.
Exactly.
So how do you build rapport with the restaurant staff?
Just be polite, respectful,
Yeah.
maybe learn a few names, say hi, thank you.
Little things like that.
It makes a difference, believe me,
That's a good tip.
because those folks are basically your partners in this.
Makes sense.
A good relationship with them can really speed things up.
Any other tips for making the pickup as smooth as possible?
Always be prepared.
Okay.
Have your hot bag ready,
Okay.
phone charged,
Yeah.
and know the customer's name and order number before you even walk in.
Right. So you don't hold up the line.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and what about those orders with multiple drinks?
Oh, get yourself a drink carrier.
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
It's a lifesaver.
Okay. So you've got the food. You're ready to go.
Yep.
Now it's time to navigate.
Ah, yes, the art of getting there.
So what's the best way to do that?
Honestly, try out different navigation apps.
Like what?
Google Maps, Waze, even the DoorDash app itself. See what works best for you in your area.
Right. Because sometimes those apps can be a little wonky.
Yeah, but no matter what app you use, those delivery instructions are key.
You mean like where to leave the food?
Yeah, that, but also things like gate codes, apartment numbers,
Oh, yeah. Those are important.
especially if they're handwritten, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes those are hard to read.
Exactly, so pay close attention to those.
And what about those big apartment complexes?
Oh, those can be a challenge, for sure.
Any tips for navigating those?
Well, try to get the gate code and apartment number beforehand if you can.
Okay.
And don't be afraid to contact the customer if you get lost.
It's better to ask than to wander around aimlessly. And what about contactless delivery?
Oh, yeah, that's pretty standard now.
So how does that work?
Just follow the instructions carefully.
Okay.
Take a picture of the food where you left it,
Right?
and always use your hot bag.
Yeah, gotta keep that food warm.
Exactly.
It's funny, even though it's contactless, I always feel like I should at least knock or ring the doorbell.
Yeah, me too.
Just to let them know it's there.
Right.
So speaking of making a good impression, let's talk about customer service.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It seems like that's really important for Dashers,
It is.
especially when it comes to getting good tips.
Absolutely.
So how do you provide amazing customer service as a Dasher?
Well, the guide really stresses the importance of communication.
Okay.
Like being proactive and personable.
But doesn't that take up a lot of time?
It doesn't have to.
Okay.
It's just about those little things, like sending a quick message when you pick up the food,
Yeah.
giving an estimated arrival time,
Right.
maybe even a little enjoy your meal
Mm-hmm.
message at the end.
Okay, so it's about going the extra mile, but not literally.
Exactly.
Now, what about those times when things go wrong?
Ah.
Like, what if the restaurant screws up the order, or the app is being weird, or customer is being difficult?
That's when you have to be a problem solver.
Okay.
The key is to stay calm,
Right.
communicate clearly,
Right.
and know when to get DoorDash support involved.
Yeah, sometimes you need backup.
Exactly.
Now, I know there's no official uniform for Dashers,
Yeah.
but does the guide say anything about how you should look?
It does, but it's not about, like, fashion or anything. It's
Yeah.
more about presenting yourself professionally.
Like what you wear?
Yeah, like clean clothes,
Yeah.
good hygiene,
Yeah.
basic stuff.
Right, it's about respecting yourself and the customer.
Exactly.
So is there like a magic phrase that guarantees you a bigger tip?
Not really.
Okay.
But a genuine thank you goes a long way.
Yeah.
And try to personalize it.
Oh, like what?
Like mention their name,
Okay.
wish them well. Maybe even comment on their neighborhood if it's nice.
Oh, I like that. It adds a personal touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the basics of being a Dasher,
Mm-hmm.
from signing up to navigating those deliveries.
Yeah.
But now I want to get to the good stuff.
What's that?
The money.
Ah, yes, the $1 million question.
Exactly.
How to make the most as a Dasher.
What are the secrets?
Well, first you got to master the peak hours.
You mean like lunch and dinner rushes?
Yeah, those are big, but think bigger.
Bigger.
Like Super Bowl Sunday.
Oh, yeah, everyone's ordering in then?
Exactly.
What about holidays?
Huge.
Okay.
And even bad weather.
Oh, yeah. When it's snowing or raining and nobody wants to go out?
People are way more likely to order in when it's nasty out.
That's true. I do that all the time.
So those are all times when demand is high. which means more earning potential.
So you got to be strategic and anticipate those busy times.
Exactly.
Now, I've heard about this thing called peak pay.
Oh, yeah.
What's that all about?
It's basically a bonus they add to deliveries during those busy times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can see it on the map in the app.
So it's like a surge price, but for deliveries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you can figure out when and where those peak pay times are,
Yeah,
you can really maximize your earnings.
that's smart.
Like, for example, you might notice that Tuesdays in the downtown area always have a $3 peak pay during lunch.
Oh, wow.
So then, to focus on that area during that time.
So it's almost like playing the stock market.
Yeah, kind
You
of.
got to find those peak earning opportunities.
Exactly.
Now, what about choosing where to dash?
Oh, that's another big one.
Like, are some areas better than others?
Not necessarily.
So where are the hot spots?
Well, you want to look for places with a high concentration of people,
Okay.
like downtown areas, lots of apartments, college campuses.
Right, places where people are more likely to order in.
Exactly.
What about those fancy neighborhoods?
Those could be good too.
Really?
Yeah, they might not have as many orders overall. But the tip potential is usually higher.
Oh, that makes sense.
So it's about finding the right balance.
Right.
Now, some people like to schedule their dashes,
Oh, yeah.
while others prefer to just dash now.
So what's the difference?
Well, scheduling guarantees you can dash during certain times,
Okay.
even if it's not super busy, and you might get priority access to orders.
Oh, that's nice.
But Dash Now gives you more flexibility.
Right.
You can jump in whenever you want and see where the action is.
So it depends on your style, I guess.
Exactly.
What about that top dasher status I've heard about?
Oh, yeah?
What's so special about that?
Well, it's basically like the elite level of Dashers.
Okay.
You get special perks and benefits.
Like what?
The biggest one is being able to dash now, anytime, anywhere.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're not limited by peak hours or anything.
So how do you become a top dasher?
You got to have really good stats.
Like what kind of stats?
High customer ratings,
Okay.
high completion rate,
Mm-hmm.
and a good acceptance rate.
So it's not easy.
Not at all.
Now, I've heard about this thing called multi-apping.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
It's basically running multiple delivery apps at the same time.
Like DoorDash and Uber Eats.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that sounds intense.
It can be.
So how do you manage all that without losing your mind?
Organization is key.
I bet.
Imagine juggling multiple phones and apps, constantly switching between orders.
Yeah, that would be a lot.
You got to be super organized.
Any tips for making multi-apping work?
The guide says to start slowly.
Okay.
Maybe just try 2 apps at first
Right.
and focus on those high-paying orders that are close by.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And don't be afraid to decline or unassign an order if it gets too crazy.
Yeah, you don't want to end up with a bunch of angry customers.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of different aspects of being a dasher.
Yep.
But there's one thing I think a lot of people forget about.
What's that?
The expenses.
Ah, yes. The hidden costs of dashing.
Right, it's not all profit.
Not at all.
You got to think about the wear and tear on your car.
Yeah, all those miles add up.
Gas, oil changes, repairs.
It all takes a bite out of your earnings.
Exactly. So you have to factor that in when you're calculating out how much you're actually making.
Absolutely.
And speaking of finances, let's not forget about taxes.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Especially for independent contractors like dashers.
You're responsible for your own taxes.
Right. It's not like having a regular job where they take it out of your paycheck.
Exactly.
So you got to be organized and keep good records.
Absolutely.
But we'll dive into all that more after a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back to talk about the nitty-gritty of expenses and taxes for dashers. Okay, so before the break, we were getting into those hidden expenses that come with being a dasher.
Yeah, those can really sneak up on you.
Especially when you're just starting out, you're all excited about the money you're making.
Right. You see those numbers adding up in the app.
And you're not really thinking about the wear and tear on your car.
Exactly. But it's something you got to factor in if you want to make sure you're actually making a profit.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Okay, so first, there's the obvious stuff like gas.
Right.
But then there's also the maintenance.
Like oil changes and stuff.
Yeah, oil changes, tire rotations, brake pads, all
So
that.
does that keep your car running smoothly?
Exactly. And the more you drive for DoorDash,
Yeah,
the more often you'll need to do those things.
makes sense.
So that's an added cost.
Right, and those costs can add up quickly.
Oh, yeah, especially if you're not keeping up with regular maintenance.
Because then you might end up with bigger problems.
Exactly, like a major repair.
Oh, like a transmission issue or something?
Yeah, something like that.
That could cost a fortune
It could, and that's why it's so important to stay on top of those smaller maintenance things.
to prevent those big, expensive repairs.
Exactly.
Now, you also mentioned depreciation before the break. Can you
Mhm.
explain what that is exactly?
Sure. Depreciation is basically the decrease in your car's value over time. And one of the biggest factors in that is mileage.
Oh, so the more miles you put on your car,
Yeah,
the less it's worth.
exactly.
Wow, I never really thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hidden cost.
Because you don't see it right away.
Right, it's gradual.
But it's definitely something to keep in mind.
Definitely.
So we've got wear and tear, potential repairs, depreciation,
What?
all things that affect your car.
Mhm.
But what about insurance?
Oh, yeah, that's another important one.
Does your regular car insurance cover you when you're dashing?
That's a good question, and it's something a lot of people don't realize.
So what's the deal?
Your standard personal auto insurance might not cover you if you get into an accident while you're making deliveries.
Really?
Yeah, because you're essentially using your car for business purposes.
So what do you need to do?
Well, a lot of insurance companies now offer something called rideshare coverage.
Okay.
It's specifically designed for people who drive for companies like DoorDash or Uber.
So it's like an add-on to your regular insurance.
Exactly. It might cost a little extra.
But it's probably worth it for the peace of mind.
Definitely. You don't want to be caught without coverage if something happens.
Okay, so we've got the car expenses covered.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another big one looming.
Uh-oh, what's that?
Taxes.
Ah, yes, the dreaded taxes.
Especially for independent contractors like dashers.
Right. It's not like a regular job where they withhold taxes from your paycheck.
So you're on your own,
Pretty much.
which can be a little scary.
It can be, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare.
Okay, so how do we make it less scary?
The key is organization.
Okay, like keeping track of all your earnings and expenses.
Exactly. You need to track every dollar that goes in and out of your dashing business.
So what kind of things should we be tracking?
Well, on the income side, it's not just your delivery fees and tips.
Okay.
Any bonuses or incentives you get from DoorDash,
Right.
those count as income too.
So basically every penny you earn. What about expenses? What are some things we can deduct?
Mileage is a big one.
Okay.
Every mile you drive for DoorDash is a potential tax deduction.
So how do you track that?
You can use a mileage tracking app,
Oh, those are handy.
or you can keep a logbook.
Okay, either way, you got to keep track of those miles.
Exactly.
What else can you deduct?
Well, anything you use for your dashing business?
Like gas and tolls?
Yep, those are obvious ones.
Okay.
But also things like parking fees, phone mounts, car chargers, even a portion of your phone bill.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize you could deduct all that stuff.
Yeah, it can really add up.
So the more organized you are,
Mm.
the more money you can potentially save on taxes.
Exactly, and it makes tax time a lot less stressful.
Okay, so being a dasher is more than just driving around,
Yeah, it's like running your own little business.
which means you got to be on top of your finances.
Absolutely.
Now, we've talked about the costs and the taxes, but there's one more crucial aspect of being a successful dasher that we haven't gotten to yet.
And that is...
Customer service.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
Because at the end of the day, those tips can make a huge difference in your earnings.
Definitely.
And good customer service is the key to getting those tips. So how do you become a customer service superstar as a dasher?
Well, that's what we're going to dive into after the break.
Sounds good to me.
So stick around. We'll be right back with all the tips and tricks for making your customers happy.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into the world of customer service as a DoorDash driver.
You know, it's funny how much emphasis this guide puts on customer service.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think it would be that big of a deal for a delivery gig.
Right, you just got to get the food there, right?
You'd think so, but it turns out those little interactions with customers can really make a difference.
So what's the secret to being a customer service superstar as a dasher?
Communication, communication, communication.
Okay, like keeping the customer updated on their order.
Exactly. Think about it from a customer's perspective. What do you want to know when you're waiting for your food?
Well, I definitely want to know when my food has been picked up.
Yep.
Like an estimated arrival time.
Exactly.
And if there are any delays, I want to know about those too.
Absolutely. And that's what the guide recommends, being proactive with those updates.
Okay, so sending a message when you pick up the food, giving an ETA, and letting them know if there are any issues.
Yep. Those little things can really make a customer feel good.
But doesn't all that messaging take up a lot of time?
Not necessarily. You can use pre-written message templates.
Oh, like those canned responses you see in some apps?
Yeah, kind of like that, but you got to personalize them.
Right, you don't want to sound like a robot.
Exactly. So use their name, maybe mention something specific about their order.
Like, I hope you enjoy that double cheeseburger.
Exactly. Just little things to make it more personal.
Okay, so what about when things go wrong? Like, what if the restaurant messes up the order?
Oh, that's always a bummer.
Or what if the customer gives you the wrong address?
Or you spill a drink all over yourself. Those things happen.
Oh, man, that would be the worst.
So in those situations, what do?
I guess stay calm.
That's the first step.
Okay.
It's easy to get flustered when things go wrong, but you got to stay professional.
Right.
Remember, you're representing DoorDash.
Okay, so stay calm. What else?
Communicate clearly with the customer.
Okay.
Let them know what's going on. And if you need help, contact DoorDash support.
Yeah, they're there to help you out.
Exactly.
Now, what about those customers who are just plain difficult?
Oh, yeah, you're going to run into those.
Like the ones who are rude or demanding?
Yep. But even then, you got to stay professional.
That's got to be tough.
It can be. But the guide gives some good advice for dealing with those situations.
Like what?
Well, first, try to de-escalate the situation.
Okay, how do you do that?
Listen to their concerns.
Okay.
Use calm and respectful language.
Right, don't get into an argument.
And focus on finding a solution.
That makes sense.
And if you ever feel unsafe, you can always end the interaction.
Yeah, your safety is the most important thing.
Exactly.
So, are there any secret tricks for getting bigger tips?
No magic tricks, unfortunately.
Okay.
But consistently good customer service is your best bet.
Right, those little things we talked about can really add up.
Exactly. Most people appreciate good service
Yeah.
and are willing to tip for it.
But what about those people who just don't tip no matter what?
Yeah, you're going to run into those too.
That's so frustrating.
It can be,
Yeah.
but you can't control how other people act.
Yeah, true.
So just focus on doing your best.
Yeah, provide excellent service and hope for the best.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into the world of DoorDash.
We have.
From the basics of signing up to mastering those customer interactions.
And all the financial stuff in between.
Exactly.
It's more than just drive around delivering food, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like running your own little business.
Exactly.
Which can be challenging but also rewarding.
Definitely.
So if you're thinking about becoming a Dasher, remember to be strategic, be organized, and be a customer service rock star.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
My pleasure. Always happy to talk about the hustle.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in.
Keep on dashing.
Until next time, keep on diving deep.